Viewer discretion is advised. The following material comes from restricted legal files, leaked forensic recordings, and confidential internal communications tied to the federal probe into Sean Diddy. Combs. At the core of this report is Tyler, the creator, along with a voice recording he never intended to share. In October 2021, Tyler was invited to an exclusive Combs global gathering, disguised as a sensory art ritual in New Orleans. The venue, a derelict sugar refinery, temporarily converted into a one-eyed experience. No media, no flyers, just QR code entry and a cryptic message. See what isn't meant to be seen. Leave what isn't meant to be taken. Tyler arrived shortly after midnight, wearing a custom gold and marble moth-shaped pin. What no one realized, and what the FBI wouldn't uncover for 3 years, was that the brooch hid a modified voice recorder, designed to autosync with a wiped laptop. That laptop resurfaced in April 2025, nearly empty except for one damaged file. Time-stamped October 19, 2021 at 1:14 a.m. The file was labeled moth tape and .aac. Entered in court as Exhibit 1 for 3A, it changed everything. The first 45 seconds, just static. Muted bass, shifting footsteps, glass clinks, then Tyler's voice quiet, muttering. They said no phones, but didn't say anything about pins. A pause. Guess I'm recording now. No chuckle. More movement, doors creaking. Then he whispers. It's too quiet. At 1:17, another voice asks, there or circle? Tyler replies, I'm Tier. Whatever that means. Then a pause. There's a room far end, no sound, just people breathing. The recording buzzes, glitches, then steadies. And Tyler says the line, that room wasn't for us. It was for them. The file cuts 43 seconds later. No names, no screams, just fading static. One last line. I'm not going back. Not even for the money. Tyler never acknowledged that night, not in interviews, music, or side comments. But the tape remembered. And remember, every scrub tweet, staged denial, and PR lie takes hours to track. Want to support this work? Tap join. We'll keep exposing what they hide. 3 days after Moth Tape 1 hit evidence, a former Combs global planner took the stand under protective alias. They admitted involvement in the New Orleans 2021 event. When asked about attendees, they confirmed Tyler was Tier 4. That's observer only. No engagement, just exposure. Asked if Tier for South were monitored, the planner paused, then said, yes, especially if they violated terms. The prosecutor pressed, what does violating protocol mean? The answer came flat, recording, remembering, reacting. Then he wasn't supposed to have a recorder. That's why they tagged him. Next came Exhibit 1 for 3B, a leaked Combs global internal memo labeled Tier assignments. Ritual 3. NOLA. Tyler's name isn't listed, but under Tier for guest ID CO5VIM, a chilling note reads, eyes open, memory active. Tag for post review. Below it, scribbled in faded red ink, recorder suspected, do not confront. Observe until exit. The phrase poster appears 19 times in related documents, each tied to guests who reacted incorrectly or saw something they weren't meant to. But the story doesn't stop there. A week after Moth Tape 1 leaked, the FBI received a mysterious package. No return address, no fingerprints, mailed from Geneva. Inside, Tyler's original moth brooch untouched, still sealed, nestled in black velvet. One note, don't open the wings unless you want to remember. Forensics cracked it open. Inside, 2 gigabytes of encrypted data, captured in microbursts during the NOLA event. File names included, Tier Shift 2000 to 103, unassigned entry to 119, door ajar. 2014, wings closed final. Only one file could be played, the last one. It ended the same way as the first. That room wasn't for us. It was for them. Then silence. But the metadata revealed something else, a GPS ping from inside the Obsidian Room satellite property. 1 month before the Janelle Mooney file, a year before the Frank Ocean revelations, Tyler had been there first and he captured it. As prosecutors delved further into Tyler's movements during the New Orleans event, they uncovered Exhibit Phone to 3C and otherwise routine guest wardrobe change form. But one entry stood out. Guest CO5VAVM requested a clothing swap. Reason? I don't want to blend in. The staffer managing ceremonial attire now testifying under immunity confirmed that Tyler had rejected the typical Tier for white robe. His words, give me something they'll notice if they're watching me. Let them know I see it. He received a dark green linen coat, one without the internal tracking film, and tan item never used for ritual Tier guest. Why was this permitted? Because he was Tier 4 and Tier for South aren't confronted. They're observed. That wardrobe request set off a deeper analysis of the guest flow logs. Exhibit 1 for 3D. A decrypted snapshot from the event's real-time tracking system showed irregular behavior from CO5 Emmet to 14 a.m. location tag Chanabu, while the rest of the guests were positioned for the stillness protocol. Tyler diverged, walking toward a back hall reserved only for tiered facilitators. The log entry read, "Subject for C disrupted rhythm. Entered off program zone, no trigger response. Recommend continued observation." In Diddy's internal code, no trigger response meant the subject didn't panic, didn't flinch, didn't show emotional reaction. He stayed level, to level. The next exhibit shifted the case entirely. Exhibit 1 for 3E was a decrypted audio file pulled from Tyler's second internal cache recorded by the brooch at 21 a.m., exactly 7 minutes after his break from the formation. The voice is clearly Tyler's, quiet, measured, and tinged with rare hesitation. "I think someone said my name. I wasn't supposed to be in that area. I turned early. They weren't ready. Behind the walls, those weren't speakers. It was something else." Then a long pause. "No one made me leave. That's what scared me." The file ends abruptly, but prosecutors argued that this wasn't random narration, it was a marker, a breadcrumb. Because the moment Tyler deviated from his cue, he entered a space never meant for him. And somehow, he left with what no one foresaw or recorded. As Tyler's audio messages echoed through the courtroom, the prosecution entered Exhibit 1 for 3FA. Censored internal disciplinary memo from Combs Global, source undisclosed. Title, Tier for Guest Conscious Dissonance Flag. The tone was detached, medical, no name, but unmistakable references. It read, "Subject accessed off program zone during Phase 3. No response to environmental triggers. Sedation ineffective. Maintain direct visual contact with facilitators. Flagged for conscious dissonance. Log for review." That term conscious dissonance came up again during facilitator testimony. One handler assigned to Tyler's aisle described what happened. He stood up before the room's queue. "We all heard it, his chair sliding back. Not loud, just wrong. No one moves before the sound cue. But he did. And when the light caught him, he didn't blink. He looked at us like he was already past it." That incident led to a rhythm deviation report, filed that same night. Exhibit 1 for 3G captured it. Subject crossed curtain threshold into silence zone. No intervention. No alert. Subject became still. No action taken. Then came the most chilling piece. Exhibit 1 for 3H, an internal memo pulled from an encrypted email recovered by the FBI's digital forensic team, dated today's post-event. Title, Subject CO55M Intentional Perception Pattern. The message read, "He understands the sound isn't music. He senses the silence is constructed. No confrontation necessary. Classify as non-hostile. Recommend management through saturation." Translation, flood him with distractions, opportunities, visibility, noise. Keep him too busy to look deeper, but nothing distracted from the final blow. Exhibit 1 for 3I, the official exit registry from the New Orleans estate. It listed every guest, every staffer. In total, 58 entries. Only 57 departures. One line left blank. Guest Derver 58, no name, no scan. No exit logged. A silent observer never officially present, never officially gone, but the facilitator on duty left one final note in their report. Follow-up logs from the facilitator noted he stood behind Tier 4 for a beat, then vanished into the void. Tyler never reported seeing anyone behind him, but in the final seconds of his recorded audio, there's a faint whisper, barely perceptible, sounding like digital interference. Once isolated, however, it becomes clear. A single voice, not Tyler's, quietly says, "He heard us." 1 week after the incomplete guest exit log was released, the FBI made a major announcement. They had successfully decrypted a damaged SD card recovered from a wiped DSLR camera seized during the 2025 Manhattan raid on the Combs Global Solid ID event archive. While the card had been thoroughly scrubbed, forensic specialists managed to salvage a fragment. Exhibit 1 for 3J, labeled video frame to 15 POW. To 22 AM, no audio, no background, just a shaky, 3-second silent clip. It shows a narrow service hallway behind the main ritual platform. Tyler appears, walking into frame alone, wearing the distinct dark green coat. But 1.2 seconds later, another figure enters, identity unknown, dressed in black, no badge, moving in the same direction, but not toward Tyler, trailing behind like a shadow pulled forward by the light. The clip ends before any contact. The FBI couldn't confirm who it was. No other angle caught that moment. No witnesses recalled another person in that corridor. But Tyler had. He just never said it outright. Because when investigators combed through a recovered notebook from his LA workspace, they discovered a missing page. Not torn in haste, cleanly excised, but under angled light. The pressure marks remained. Using specialized mapping software, analysts reconstructed the final sentence. He didn't belong there either. Then came Exhibit 1 for 3K extracted metadata from the original moth tape file. Deep inside the extended properties section, buried in an auxiliary tag, was a single entry. Wake loop interrupted. Guest drift unscheduled. That phrase had appeared before, linked to both the Obsidian Room incident and the logs tied to Janelle Monáe and Frank Ocean, but this time, Tyler's data predated them. He hadn't just witnessed something, he may have been the very first to break protocol and live. The FBI's lead audio analyst addressed the court plainly. Everyone's been focused on what Tyler recorded. No one's asked what was recording him. Because the man behind him, the one who left no trace, wasn't on any registry, wasn't assigned a tier, wasn't even acknowledged. But Tyler saw him, and he didn't react. Not like the others. Days later, after confirmation of the shadow figure video, the FBI brought in a second expert, an audio engineer who had collaborated with Tyler on unreleased atmospheric compositions. He wasn't affiliated with Combs Global or the case, but he'd received something unexplainable in late 2021, a locked audio file from Tyler. No label, no instructions. He assumed it was a draft track, but when played, it wasn't music. It was layered, fractured, and what emerged was chilling. Two voices, the first, Tyler's, calm, describing the scene, the breath, the silence. But embedded below it, slightly out of phase, a second voice, slower, deeper, mirroring Tyler's rhythm, his breaths, his inflections. Not responding, predicting. This became Exhibit 1 for 3L, mirrored voice loop fragment. The engineer played it for the court. It begins with Tyler muttering, "They said no phones," but didn't say anything about pins. A beat later, the echo answers, "He can hear you too." Experts confirmed it wasn't Tyler, but the timing was exact. The Bureau's cyberpsych threat team reviewed the clip. Their finding, the second voice had been embedded before Tyler recorded his, suggesting premeditation or pre-construction, something technically impossible, unless what we're hearing was staged. Then came Exhibit 1 for 3M, an unpublished 12-second iPhone video, leaked from an unknown source. It showed Tyler 6 weeks after New Orleans, alone in a European green room, adjusting a tripod. The lens tilts, catching him glancing toward the camera, then downward. He mouths something. Frame by frame lip reading confirmed the sentence. This was staged for someone else. He wasn't referring to the party itself, he was referring to the fact that he had been present at all. Tyler, it seemed, had come to a chilling realization. He hadn't accidentally wandered into anything. He'd been placed, not to witness, to document. Because whoever the figure was, the one behind him, the one who never left, the one who whispered, "He can hear you too," wasn't watching for a reaction. He was waiting for proof. And Tyler delivered it. After the audio analyst isolated the echo, the FBI revisited the moth tape, not for sound, but for buried loop signatures, sub-patterns, masked identifiers. What they discovered stunned even hardened cyber agents. Deep beneath Tyler's audio, below the audible range, was a static fragment looped endlessly. Not vocal, not musical, just a spectral tag, Aleluia. Exhibit 1 for 3N spectral print, loop fragment. The Bureau ran it through linguistic forensics. It wasn't anything Tyler had ever spoken or written. It predated the tape. It matched nothing in his library. But when cross-referenced with earlier Obsidian-linked Combs sessions, that same fragment surfaced 4 times, each tied to a guest who'd gone untrackable. The phrase wasn't a name, it was a label, a tag for individuals who couldn't be reset. Then came another revelation. A former assistant, identity sealed under witness protection, testified. In a closed deposition, she admitted she'd hand-delivered a black envelope to Tyler's Paris hotel. No return address, no insignia, just 3 words printed in stark white ink. Tier reset CO55M. She was instructed not to knock, not to wait, not to speak. I left it by his door. 10 minutes later, it was gone. She said she saw him one final time backstage, 2022. He said nothing, but when their eyes met, he mouthed just 3 words, loop still playing. That same day, prosecutors entered Exhibit 1 for 3O, an internal Combs Global Behavior memo, leaked from their cognitive monitoring unit. The subject, Tyler C5 Vibe. 3 flags were listed: witness memory active, loop unbroken, no reprogram confirmed. While other guests had been reset through sedation, redirection, or image collapse, Tyler had never flinched, never folded, never forgot. He just held it. One forensic analyst summarized his data trail like this: he didn't walk through fire. He walked through silence, and he carried it. Because whatever that loop was, it didn't close. Tyler was never part of their choreography. And now he was the one variable they couldn't neutralize. Then, just days before closing arguments, another forgotten record surfaced. A misfiled audio memo from the original event planner of the 2021 New Orleans install recovered from a deprecated production folder. Exhibit 1 for 3P. Planner debrief. 3:30 to AM. The voice on tape sounds exhausted. Disoriented, there was one guest we didn't log. He never spoke, never asked to leave. We gave him tier for access, but he didn't need it. He wasn't there to change. He was there to remember. That guest, 05M, Tyler, the creator. Then came the last visual fragment, Exhibit 1 for 3Q. A corrupted still salvaged from an old lighting console's backup cache. Grainy, infrared. No timestamp, but unmistakable. Tyler stands alone at the center of a pitch-black room. No facilitators. No signals. No movement, just stillness. His head tilted. Lips barely moving. Audio couldn't be recovered, but forensic lip readers identified the phrase, "It's not performance." Because it wasn't a reaction. It was a mark. The closing entry came from the Combs Global Behavioral Directive Logs, Exhibit 1 for 3R. Guest containment recommendation SE5MS. Bold red header, do not retrieve. Subtext, let the witness drift. They couldn't erase him, couldn't buy him, couldn't drown him in noise. So they did the only thing left, let him vanish out of frame, out of press cycles, but never out of memory. Tyler never dropped a track about it, never gave an interview, never explained the tape, because the tape wasn't the message. He wasn't a performer, wasn't a victim, wasn't a prophet. He was simply the one who walked through it and didn't forget.